Hey everyone, I'm here with Tina today to compare the Nikon D7100 and
the Canon 70D.
Okay, so I know these theoretically on paper aren't the two cameras that are head-to-head. Canon has the 7D above this series, which are their sports cameras, which technically go up against the D7100. But there's three good reasons I can think of why they are worth comparing. Firstly, Tina happens to own both of these two, so they are in some sense comparable. The second one is I get a lot of questions about comparing these two. And thirdly is, even though that's not considered the sports camera, specs-wise, these are reasonably similar, and as we film this, they're actually exactly the same price. So they are cameras that people are likely to be comparing. So, you know, what do you call it? Elephant in the room. In Educating Tina Season 1, Tina bought the 7100. Since then, you bought the 70D. Why?
Yeah. Well, I learned photography on this, but I wanted a camera to use for filming my YouTube videos. And this one, because of its features, I thought it was just more handy to use. And it's got autofocusing, so things like that lured me into buying it.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about more about the differences she's found as we go through them, but let's take a look at the specs.
Taking a look at the D7100, this has their 24.1 megapixel CMOS sensor. It'll take all the different variants of SD card. It's got 100% viewfinder coverage, ISO 100 to 6400, and that'll extend to 12,800 and 25,600. Shutter speed will go from 30 seconds all the way up to 1/8000th of a second. Exposure compensation plus and minus 5 stops. Of course, built-in flash and a stereo microphone. Flash sync speed 1/250th of a second. Video, it'll do full HD of course in 50 frames a second and 60 frames a second. In terms of performance, this guy will knock out 6 frames a second, and it's got 51 focus points which are spread nicely across the screen, which will be really handy when you're doing your tracking shooting. Overall, this is a fairly compact body and it weighs in at 675 grams. Okay, taking a look at the Canon 70D. This one's also APS-C and it's 20.2 megapixels, so slightly lower. It is CMOS as well. It also takes all the SD formats, but it only has the one card slot. This only has 98% viewfinder coverage. The ISO range is 100 to 12,800, still extends up to the same 25,600. Same shutter speed range of 30 seconds through to 1/8000th. Same flash sync speed, 1/250th of a second. It also does full HD video, but only up to 30 frames a second. If you want to do 60 frames, you have to drop down to 1280 by 720. Although this isn't their sports camera, it'll do 7 frames a second, so it actually beats the 7100. This guy only has 19 focus points, and it's slightly heavier. It's coming in at 755 grams. One big advantage of this guy though, for some people anyway, is the 3-inch rear swiveling LCD screen that's got just over 1 million pixels. It's not as detailed as the Nikon, but it is touchscreen.
Okay, so some similarities, some differences, some obvious things that are above one or the other. Good things though, they are both weather sealed and they both have a decent frame per second rate. So let's just talk a little bit about the handling. I've been playing with both of them today. I'm really familiar with Nikon. So again, that's always the thing. If you're, some people will comment saying, thanks so much, I've been thinking about these two. Others will say, oh, nobody's thinking of buying 2 different brands of cameras. You stick with what you have. Trust me, people do. So if you're used to Nikon, so familiar. Front and rear dials, it's got the high-end layout. It's familiar, the grip is comfortable as well. For me, the Canon, let's swap for a second, I actually love the grip on this one. I think it's much improved over some of the older generation Canons that I'd use, and it's different because you've got the different kind of rear dial at the back and then the top dial's in a different position. But if you're just learning the camera, I think you'd learn either of them just as easily. What about you? You learn on this one and this one, do you find any differences?
Yeah, there's big differences. So obviously I was used to the Nikon, but then when I switched over, yeah, the dials are a bit different, so the function's a bit different, but I actually use this one on a tripod more, and I just connect the USB and use the program, the Canon one, to my laptop. So I just control everything from there for my videos and my selfies and stuff like that. But
so that's where the flip-out screen's a big plus as well.
Yeah, but this one's still my go-to one when I'm taking like before and afters of clients, because I just know where everything is.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. That's a really important thing, guys. You know, Tina and I come from very different backgrounds. There's no point preaching at someone that the way they do things is wrong. It's better to find out how they like to do things and support them. Now, one of the things we were talking about, not to put words in your mouth, but you said you bought the Canon because you like the skin tone straight out of camera.
Yeah, the skin tones just look much better. I think maybe the greens and the blues are sort of more vibrant, but I like the skin tones because I shoot a lot of video, like my videos. I wanted the skin tone to be more true to color. So I think the Canon does that really well. Yeah.
So a lot of people find that for whatever reason the reds and oranges on Canon in JPEG come out really great, and in Nikon it's the greens and blues, and same for Fuji, a lot of people praise their color. Now, Tina knows this, you all know this, of course. If you're shooting in RAW, you can adjust your white balance, you can play with all your colors, no problem. But do you shoot in RAW?
I don't.
Okay.
Don't kill me. I just don't. I don't really like to play with my photos in the colors too much.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at. There's no point jumping on people about you should be shooting in those kind of settings. It's ridiculous. It doesn't work for everyone. So someone like Tina, who is not shooting for a high-end print publication, if you can get the results you want in JPEG out of camera with the settings that you've set up for the kind of work you're doing, and because you're in a studio environment, right? So you probably, I know you shoot in manual when you're doing studio stuff, so the camera might sit there for months on the same settings, light on the same settings, you don't need to adjust anything, there's no problem. And if it's going online, you're not going to notice that compression anyway. And it's not just, fashion bloggers and makeup artists who are shooting in JPEG. Sports photographers, press photographers that need to get things out immediately on the wire are as well. So better to find out how they like to shoot them and work with that if you're going to give your friends advice. So having said that, this is working for you for studio and for filming. This one when you're out shooting jobs, and she's done some pre-weddings lately. You'll hear more about that in future videos. But people want to see the comparison of the images. So let's get some shots of each other, indoors and outdoors. We'll grab a couple of landscapes as well, do some pixel peeping and see how they actually are in terms of resolving power.
We shot everything using the 1.850mm from both cameras. Here's some video footage, the Nikon filming the Canon, and there we go, the Canon filming the Nikon. Let's take a look at some shots. Here we are with the 7100, and we'll do a 100% crop in on that. Plenty of detail, and you can see that's going in nice and close. Here we are with the Canon, and that one's not going to go in quite as far because it's not as high of a resolution sensor, but still beautifully detailed, maybe slightly more on the Nikon. But let's look in studio under controlled lights. Obviously, so good looking. Let's go in on some crops of Tina. So here we are with the Canon, and then going in on a crop of her face. Oodles of detail, you couldn't ask for more. We're shooting these at f8, and then again with this one, shot with Studio Ranger Elenchrom lights and a tiny softbox. Nothing to complain about. Now this is something a lot of people love the Canon for. That's the skin tones just coming out on JPEG. And there we are with the Nikon with the standard setting mode for JPEG. But keep in mind, you can just tweak it, and then this is straight out of camera. So, don't be fooled that you have to use a Canon to get the good skin tones. Of course, a lot of the image quality we're seeing here comes down to the lenses. Let's do one that's all sensor. Here we go with an ISO test. There we are at ISO 1000. I don't like to shoot this level on any camera, but here we are. They're at 3200, falling to pieces, 6400, and 12,800. And let's go in on some crops there. You can see at those high levels, it's really just a mess. Let's do the same on the Canon, and 3200, 64 and 12.8, and again the crops, if you got no choice, use it, but I would avoid it like the plague. That said, the Canon seemed to show up noise and luminance noise especially earlier, but then at the higher levels it was holding up better than the Nikon.
So what did you think, guys? A lot of different comparisons there. Look, for me, the image quality of them is both great, right? It really comes down to what you're going to be shooting for. I sometimes go on and you may look at me and think, he's shooting with the D810 and Zeiss lenses, and he's going to say that image quality isn't that important. That's not actually what I'm saying. But these higher end DSLRs, or any of the modern DSLRs now, the image quality is great. You're comparing great to outstanding to ridiculous. It's for the purposes most people are going to be using them, image quality is going to be okay. It's going to be how's the handling and does it have the other features you want? And that is something, a sports camera and the high level, pro level cameras don't have flip out screens because that's something that you could easily break when you're out on a job. But if you're shooting or filming alone at home, that saves you buying an external monitor to be able to see that you're in frame. I don't know if you ever did that with that, but so often I'll be filming with this thing,
It gets really
cut
annoying.
my head off and whatever.
Yeah, it gets really annoying because I have to run back and I downloaded the app on my phone, but that wasn't always reliable.
Yeah.
So having that flippy screen was really handy.
So, you know, whilst this guy is just as fast, a little bit faster than the sports camera from Nikon, I think you'd have to say if you were shooting outdoors where focus is an issue, where tracking is an issue, they both focus well, but the Nikon's got an advantage in my opinion. 51 focus points compared to 19, I think it is. I never found it was really slow with this, but that just seemed that much faster anyway. Overall, any other things that jump out at you as being, that separate them out?
Well, I like that this one's got the 2 slots for the memory cards, because that's handy, because when one gets full it just jumps to the other. When this one gets full it gets a bit annoying. So that's one thing. But yeah, like for photography I still like to use my Nikon because it's more familiar for me. For my shooting, like my YouTube, my videos and sort of my selfies and stuff, that I just do it on the Canon program, that I just use Canon.
So it's going to come down to you, how you use it, what features you want. Of course, if you had a wise old mentor who suggested that you buy the Nikon that had a flip out screen so you could do that filming originally in season 1 of Educating Tina, then you may not have had to buy 2 cameras. Most people aren't going to have the option of having 2 systems. Tina doesn't have 50 lenses for each one though.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yes, send any to the PO box listed below. But there you go, there's a little comparison. Leave us any questions or comments. You're going to see lots more of Tina around. If you have any requests, make sure you leave a comment on the Mac Ranger website page that's linked in the caption below for this video, and we'll check them out. We've got lots of cool stuff coming soon.
Lots of cool stuff.
Make sure you check in with tinayong.com and her video channel as well. Thanks for your time.
Alrighty, see you guys.
Alright, can you stand in? Well, I'll just frame up the shot. Actually, you'll tear the paper. Do you want to stand on a box instead?
Alrighty.
And it's a little bit silly. This is the one that ISO monitor came in.
What if I break it?
I don't think so. Now I need a box.
You need
No,
a
what
box
are you
too.
yours?
I like this one. We should just frame.
So the frame will
The
be
audience
from
won't even
here,
notice.
your belly button to your bottom chin. Maybe not. How about this one? Last time it was phone books in a stack of my private body. Still so deceptive.
They're never gonna know. Hi, I'm Tina. I'm extremely tall.
Lies.